All right, welcome in. Really wholesome content on tap this evening as we need to talk about how much the 49ers and the Seahawks hate each other. And this goes back to the Harbaugh Pete Carroll rivalry because I think that's what we need to do to set the tone for the second playoff matchup between these two teams. And this was just a few weeks ago. It's going to be about a month to the date when the 49ers play the Seahawks on Saturday in the playoffs. But just listen to what Fred Warner had to say before the matchup in Seattle that saw the 49ers clinch the division.
We hate these boys. We hate these motherfuckers. Come out and smoke these boys from the first whistle. From the first fucking whistle. One game, 60 minutes, all you got. I fucking love y'all boys, man. I love y'all and I'm hard. Let's go beat that boy ass.
So I have to say this, both the 49ers and Seattle, because we just saw the 49ers side, have seemed to reach to a really dark place for energy in this rivalry. There you saw Fred Warner just launch a bunch of F-bombs about how much he hates the Seahawks to motivate the 49ers on December 15th at Lumen Field. And you could go all the way back to the Richard Sherman era, back when he was with Seattle and his very, obviously passionate, angry interview with Aaron Andrews after Seattle won the NFC Championship game to realize that the fuel that these players use to enter the proper headspace to play this rivalry has generally come from a darker place. It comes from a place of these two teams not liking each other. And I think that sets the tone for what should be an intense bout on Saturday. The Seahawks are definitely big-time underdogs against the 49ers. The line right now is 49ers by 9.5. But Pete Carroll's already on the radio in the Bay Area waxing poetic about how great the 49ers are. And Richard Sherman today came up on Twitter and said Pete doesn't do anything by accident. Pete Carroll is definitely operating some gamesmanship in this situation. Pete Carroll is saying, hey, I want to inflate the 49ers' egos a little bit, maybe catch them a little bit off guard because he does believe that an upset is possible. And hey, in 2019, the Seahawks upset the 49ers. I thought that was a significantly worse Seattle team that came in on Monday Night Football and got the job done. So the 49ers have to be on alert because this is a rivalry that definitely is fueled on emotion. We've seen the emotion of Richard Sherman after that NFC Championship game in January 2014. You saw the emotion of Fred Warner in the video that I just played you. And there is a level of hatred behind that emotion that certainly has made this rivalry what it is. Let's go back through some of the history because I think that this wasn't much of a rivalry until we saw this happen. And this was before either coach was with either the 49ers or the Seahawks. This is in 2009, Jim Harbaugh and Pete Carroll, the what's your deal game when Jim Harbaugh ran the score up against the against the future Seattle Seahawks coach against the USC Trojans. This is Stanford and USC. Andrew Luck was Stanford's quarterback. Toby Gerhart was their running back. Jim Harbaugh went for 2 to try to get 50 points. He wanted to hang 50 points on USC, which at the time was still glowing in the Pete Carroll era. This was the loss that really knocked the mojo out of the Pete Carroll era. And by the next season, Lane Kiffin was USC's coach, and Pete Carroll had moved on to Seattle. The Seattle era, though, of Pete Carroll's Seattle era saw the Seahawks own the 49ers for several years. And this is, of course, Richard Sherman and Russell Wilson eating turkey on the 50-yard line. That came the season after this right here. I didn't know that the tip from Richard Sherman, which is pictured right here, actually is a thing on Wikipedia. You go to Wikipedia and it's the tip, American football. The tip, sometimes referred to as the immaculate deflection, was a play in the 2013 NFC Championship game where Richard Sherman tipped the ball to Malcolm Smith. But in the wildest twist, Richard Sherman tipping the ball here and then Malcolm Smith, who would end up intercepting it, both ended up as 49ers later in the decade. And Sherman's defection especially helped set the table for the 49ers' potential revenge down the road. Obviously, they haven't won a Super Bowl yet, and the Seahawks did win a Super Bowl to close that 2013 season. But I think Sherman, when he did come over to the 49ers, and keep in mind that Richard Sherman at the time of this was actually on Jim Harbaugh's team, which makes it even crazier, right? But when Sherman came, he helped transform the culture of the 49ers and especially their defense. And then now everything might come full circle, right? We are in 2023. It's been 9 years since the 49ers lost to the Seahawks in that NFC Championship game featuring the tip. But now the 49ers are favored against the Seahawks. Now they have a chance to repay as a franchise that playoff loss that Seattle delivered to them about a decade ago. And it's been a wild, twisting journey to get to this point. But as we saw through the Fred Warner video, and we could play it again, that dark place of energy that has fueled this rivalry, I think, is still present right now.
We had these boys. We had these motherfuckers. Come out and smoke these boys from the first place. From the first fucking whistle. One game, 60 minutes. All you got. I fucking love y'all boys, man. I love y'all and I'm hard. Let's go beat that boy ass.
And that is the energy that I think still prevails entering this game. I really do think that something about this rivalry, the players have changed. A lot of the coaches have changed. Pete Carroll's obviously still there. There's something about this back and forth that it has an old school rivalry kind of feel, right? A lot of times in professional sports in this modern era, you have guys that, they're all highly paid pro athletes. They're all part of that fraternity at the NFL level. And, they like their opponents. They might be able to go into a mode of disliking them during the game. You probably have to during a violent, event like a football game. But I think when it comes to 49ers Seahawks, there still is a level of dislike that is really palpable. And, it had translated a little bit to 49ers Rams over the past couple of years. I know the 49ers players, by and large, don't like a lot of the players on the Rams. And there was that feeling last year when they played 3 times. And the third time, the Rams obviously knocked off San Francisco to head to the Super Bowl. And that was a bitter defeat for the 49ers. But I don't think that it's fully died in 49ers Seahawks yet. And I think that Fred Warner clip proves that. And the 49ers now have a chance to go for the trifecta against Seattle. They blew them out in week 2. They won handily in week 15. It was only an 8-point game on the scoreboard, but I think the 49ers had a massive, massive gap over the Seahawks as far as talent advantage in that game. And they, of course, are going to have that same advantage, probably even more pronounced entering this wild card game because Seattle, they don't have Jordan Brooks, their best linebacker. He's got an ACL issue. He's done for the season on injured reserve. So the 49ers advantage as far as being able to run the football against Seattle should be even more pronounced than before. They have a lot more talent as far as offensive skill position weapons go versus the Seattle defense. And on the other side of the ball, yeah, Seattle has DK Metcalf. They have Tyler Lockett, but the 49ers have a defense full of stars to counter that. And that defense full of stars has been better than Seattle already in 2 games this season. So, the rivalry is still there. The structure is still there. The emotions are still there. I think one team is significantly better than the other, though. But the fact that those emotions are still there, the fact that Pete Carroll's getting on the radio in the Bay Area and obviously running his typical gamesmanship, that means that this game is one that's going to have to be earned for the 49ers on Saturday afternoon. So I wanted to take you guys through some of that history and then open it up to a Q&A on this beautiful Thursday evening. I still haven't eaten dinner yet, so I'm going to have to go out and get some dinner here in a little bit. But excited to do that because you know how it is. Burrito this late at night. Oh, that's going to be good. It's going to hit the spot after a long, hard day of work. I should probably put a couple of my articles from this week up on the page as well, so you guys can check them out. But first, why don't we run the Q&A? I know everybody's kind of antsy just to get to the game at this point, right? Because, we've been talking about the 49ers in the playoffs for a while. They've won 10 straight games. They finally reached a do or die kind of spot. And this is what can really turbocharge, I think, a lot of the enthusiasm around this team. They can get this done around Brock Purdy in a playoff game against the Seahawks of all teams, a team that is hated, right? As Fred Warner just said, that could really, really get people rolling because we have a lot of good matchups throughout the rest of this wild card weekend. 49ers play their game against the Seahawks first, and then you get the other games. So after this is done, if the 49ers win, their fans are going to be able to sit back and just watch the rest of it unfold, see exactly who they're going to play the week after. And that's where it really hits overdrive. Just remember, put it into perspective. Last year, 49ers opened up against the Cowboys, but they had already come off that win against the Rams, which was epic as hell, right? That was a playoff game for all intents and purposes, overtime. So the playoffs had already started in week 18 for the 49ers, and in a way in week 17 against the Texans too. But week 18 was crazy, and that fed right into the Dallas game. We were already in emotional overdrive covering this team at this point, right? This year, it's a little bit different. You need that Seattle game, the playoff game, and presumably if the 49ers are able to hold on to the point spread here, if they're able to deliver on what Las Vegas thinks is going to happen, presumably they're going to have a win over the Seahawks, and I think that can kick stuff into overdrive in a similar way to how the Rams win kick stuff into overdrive last year. Now, big difference between this season and last season. The 49ers are much healthier. They have a better roster, right? They're not coming in here with a quarterback with a torn thumb ligament like they did last season into the game against the Cowboys, and Jimmy Garoppolo then obviously hurt his shoulder on top of that. So the 49ers need to keep it that way. They need to keep Brock Purdy clean. They need to keep him healthy, and then they need to hope that the rest of their roster stays as healthy and robust as it is now. Because I think what ultimately did the 49ers in last year was the fatigue, right? The journey. They played 12 road games last year, which was an NFL record. It was an arduous journey for the 49ers through Lambeau Field and an ice storm. And they finally ran out of gas. They met their match with the fatigue against the Los Angeles Rams in the NFC Championship game. So they have a cleaner slate this time to begin things. They are a fresh team. They're a more talented team. Christian McCaffrey is now on board. Trent Williams is healthy right now. If you're a 49ers fan, you got to knock on wood, and you have to hope that they stay as healthy as possible to make sure that they launch off freshly, as opposed to last year when they were just hanging by a thread to begin the playoffs. And remarkably, they almost made it through the entire thing, but it was really, really tough sledding for this team. All right, let's get to the questions right now. Are there any good 49ers bars in Orange County? That's a good question. I know that they've got one. I think it's called The Garage on Motor Avenue in LA that's replaced the old San Francisco Saloon, but that's going to be in Los Angeles. So you're going to have to drive up 45 minutes to an hour, maybe even more, depending on the traffic there. I think there is a good bar somewhere, though, in Orange County, and fans can go ahead and post that on the chat section. I also asked what the best 49ers bar in Seattle is, out of curiosity, the other day, because I have a friend who's actually up in Seattle right now. He wanted to know. It's Kel's Irish Pub, not to be confused with Kel's Irish Pub in San Francisco, but the Kel's in Seattle is supposedly a hotspot for 49ers fans. So if you're looking for, if you're a 49ers fan and you're behind enemy lines up in the Pacific Northwest, you need a place to watch the game on Saturday, go to Kel's. If you're a Seahawks fan watching this, they have a Seahawks bar in San Francisco. It's called Danny Coyle's on Hate Street. So team bars are always fun, especially team bars behind enemy lines. Those typically end up having really, really good vibes. Gopher Broke says there used to be one in Huntington Beach on Main Street. So let your fellow fans know here in the comments or the chat section. I'll try to put it up on the screen if I see it, but I may move on to other questions. All right, I'm scrolling through some of these, so go ahead and post as many as you can, and I'll get to some of them here as we talk 49ers and Seahawks. Why do others bring down Brock Purdy? Because this is his first playoff appearance, but he's not the only one. Yeah, I mean, Geno Smith, first playoff appearance. Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. It's because Brock Purdy is the least experienced out of all those guys, right? Just turned 23 years old. He's played in 6 games. So the experience is the biggest issue with Brock Purdy. It's to be handled with the territory, right? The good news for Brock Purdy is he has a chance to show that experience is not going to hold him back. So far, it hasn't, right? And he's already beaten the Seahawks, and he beat him with a significant injury that prevented him from throwing the football in practice in the week leading up to the game. So let's just keep on watching what Brock Purdy does and not worry all too much about the noise surrounding all of this. How could Brock Purdy lessen his chances for tip passes at the line of scrimmage? Well, that comes down to anticipation, arm angles, eye movement. The more comfortable and experienced he gets in the pocket, the better he'll be able to manipulate opposing defenses, and opposing defensive linemen won't be able to anticipate some of the throws coming out of his arms. So it's really, really important for Brock Purdy to be able to, just embrace the nuances of the quarterback position, and more time in the NFL, knowing what the tendencies of defensive linemen are, knowing the speed of the game, having that become more and more a part of your DNA, that can really help Brock Purdy. Brian asks, are the 2022 49ers more dangerous than the 2019 49ers? Well, I think the 2022 49ers have a better secondary. Remember, they had similar issues in 2019 and early in the postseason. Ahkello Witherspoon was actually benched for Emmanuel Mosley in that Minnesota game, because the second cornerback spot was a bit of an issue. I think Lenore is way better than Ahkello Witherspoon was in 2019. Pass rush was better in 2019, but the linebackers are better here in 2022. And the offense, I mean, look at the offense. They have McCaffrey now. Kittle is better than he was back then. Kittle was good back then, but Kittle's even better now. Deebo Samuel's better than he was back then. Brandon Ayuk exists now. Brandon Ayuk was still in college. So this, they had Emmanuel Sanders. I get it back then, but Brandon Ayuk is a true 1,000-yard receiver. The offensive line is much better now, right? So even though you got a rookie quarterback, and hey, Brock Purdy's playing really, really well. He's obviously also quicker than Jimmy Garoppolo. We'll see how he handles the playoffs. But even though there is more inexperience at the QB position, Brock Purdy is, working with, I think, so much more than the 49ers had in 2019, especially when you look at the fact that the 49ers are number 5 pass block efficiency up front. They have finally learned how to pass protect. So to answer your question, the 2022 49ers are more dangerous because they are strong up front on the offensive end. And I think that makes or breaks Super Bowls. We saw the Chiefs lose a Super Bowl the year after they played the 49ers against Tampa Bay because they weren't well enough equipped up front. So I'm really bullish on the 49ers because that offensive line has improved. Yep, the 2022 offense is even better. I mean, they're number 1 DVOA ever since they picked up Christian McCaffrey. That's one of the things that has to be emphasized. I did. That was nice. I texted Lisa McCaffrey after. I said thank you. Some really nice words. That was Ashley Adamson does a great job. By the way, those of you who haven't listened yet, it's called the Your Mom Podcast. Ashley Adamson works for the Pac-12 Network. Actually lives here in San Francisco. Co-hosts that podcast with Lisa McCaffrey, who's obviously Christian McCaffrey's mom. And today they hosted Cheryl Bosa, who's Nick Bosa's mom. And they had a great episode. And obviously I got a shout out on the episode, and it was really cool. So make sure you check out the Your Mom Podcast. Ashley and Lisa do a great job hosting it. And obviously it's very 49ers related now, since Christian McCaffrey's now in the 49ers. A few weeks back, they had Peggy Shanahan as a guest, Kyle Shanahan's mom. And that was also a really insightful episode. So go ahead and check that one out. The Lenore criticism is a bit overblown. He's more often than not where he's supposed to be, but has gotten unlucky at the point of the catch. That's true. It probably should have been a flag on AJ Green at the point of the catch. That seemed like offensive pass interference to me. Again, people are prisoners of the moment, and the 49ers had some truly problematic cornerback play last season when they were setting NFL records for defensive pass interference penalties. And they also had some problematic cornerback play in 2019 when Ahkello Witherspoon was really struggling down the stretch, and the pass rush had to try to swamp that out, right? And then they had to put in Emmanuel Mosley. It ended up being a good move for the 49ers because Mosley is now a starter, obviously hurt this season for the 49ers. But Lenore has not been as problematic as some of those cornerback issues that the 49ers have run into in recent seasons. It's too bad that Jason Verrett couldn't stay healthy to back up Emmanuel Mosley this year. That would have been a hell of a story. But instead, the 49ers are relying on Deommodore Lenoir, who, you are right, B the W down here is right. Deommodore Lenoir, those struggles have been a bit overblown. The Bosa family calls sacks squishies. Amazing. Here's a question. Do I feel like the 49ers were overconfident against the Raiders? Yeah, I think that Nick Bosa himself said it. I think the line from him was they underestimated Jarrett Stidham. So underestimating somebody by definition means that you are overconfident. And um, you look back at that game and why don't we emphasize the feelings surrounding 49ers Seahawks that I talked about at the start of the video. These two teams hate each other. Well, even though these are pro athletes and, this whole rivalry notion isn't probably the same as it was in the 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, right? It's a little bit more bubble wrap now. There still is a undercurrent whenever two rivals play that can lead to emotional football that creates ground for unexpected results. And I think some of that happened in 49ers Raiders. So back to your question, I put 49ers and Seahawks hate each other, but I think that the Raiders had some motivation to win that game. Add the fact that Jarrett Stidham was underestimated by the 49ers defense, and it was a closer game. Remember that the Raiders also pack a team that can give a defense some trouble. I mean, they've got some skill position weapons that create matchup issues, and that happened in that game. It's the National Football League, and the 49ers ended up winning anyway, which was impressive. Eric Gomes wants to bring props to the Raiders. They give props to the Raiders. They definitely did bring it on that day, and that's the NFL. And winning in the NFL is impressive no matter how you do it, and the 49ers ended up winning that game. I remember when Brandon Ayuk was drafted, people were joking that he could tie his shoelaces while standing upright. That kid has some long arms. Yeah, Brandon Ayuk has got wingspan. I think I do too. I think I could be a wideout. Tight end probably would have been in my position if I wasn't a swimmer. That's not how I swim, actually. I actually have a much better stroke. I got to make sure we have room here. There's a mic in front of me. You go up here, you get a good rotation. You grab the water here and then pull down. The mic is still here. We got to move the mic. Let's move the mic over this way. All right. So with the long wingspan, Brandon Ayuk obviously has one. That makes his catch radius really big. But the long wingspan, it could translate to the water too. I know I talk a lot about swimming. So you drive forward, grab water, drive forward, grab water, right? So wingspans are good in sports. All right, we'll restore the sound. I know that you guys don't want to talk too much about swimming. But anyway, I digress. Brandon Ayuk, long wingspan, has been good for his catch radius. Congratulations to him. 1,000-yard receiving season. Don't know how to swim. Oh, yeah. Well, we could do, I was thinking about it. I think with a waterproof case, it is possible. It's so cold right now in the bay. So I'm in survival mode whenever I'm swimming in the bay. It's January right now. It's the coldest month of the year. The water's under 50 degrees. I mean, it's torture when you're out there, but it feels great when you're out of the water and in the sauna. But anyway, it's icy. When it gets a little bit warmer, get a waterproof case. I could do a live from the bay. I think that'd be really cool. I think that could be an off-season project. The best month is October. So that'd be right in the middle of next season, right? Maybe do a show out there. Swimming second nature to us Polynesians. Awesome. I had a long conversation today with Talanoa Hufanga. Tongan, obviously, but you got all those Polynesian islands out there. They seem to band together, and you have representation in the NFL. And it was just a fascinating conversation with Talanoa today. His dad is maybe watching right now. Say hi to him, to Tavita watching, but he's on the sideline before every game. Those are just good people out there. 49ers had a Tongan player before Talanoa Hufanga, Pita Tamopenu. Remember him back in 2018? Pita grew up in the same village as Talanoa's dad, Tavita. It's called Pea. It's in Tonga, which is really cool. But anyway, shout out there because I see Polynesia written in the comment. What's the update on Jason Verrett? Torn Achilles. several month recovery. No real update for you there. What are the odds that Purdy can be fooled into throwing an interception? Decent. I mean, he's been fooled into making some interception-worthy throws, and has been intercepted already. He's a rookie. One thing I would worry about against Seattle is Quandre Diggs. He's good at picking the ball off. He's good at baiting quarterbacks. He did in week 15, and he just dropped it. So the 49ers need to make sure that and Purdy needs to make sure that Quandre Diggs doesn't get a pick in this game, because he got one against Garoppolo last year. That was week, I want to say 13 or 14 in Seattle. I think it was week 13. And the 49ers ended up losing that game, actually broke apart a winning streak. Very next week, the 49ers beat the Cincinnati Bengals. That was a huge win in overtime at Cincinnati over Burrow. Boy, that 2021 season was a white knuckle ride. But Brock Purdy's got to be ready for Seattle and Pete Carroll to throw the kitchen defensive sink at him. They're going to be throwing stuff that he hasn't seen before at him. They're going to be scheming up some aggressive coverages, aggressive blitzes, and Purdy's going to have to make sure to stay within himself and protect the football. How will the Seahawks contain how the 49ers contain the Seahawks run game? Well, the 49ers, remember, have the best run defense in all of football. So you have to be stout on the interior. You have to command double teams. You have to get push with guys like Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw and Kevin Givens, who's going to be back. And you have to set hard edges. And in the wide nine, it's tough because the wide nine is trying to cheat for pass rushing, right? You elongate the formation. The defensive ends are far apart. And with those defensive ends being far apart, the gaps up the middle are a little bit bigger. So you have to have dominant defensive tackle play. Eric Armstead, when he was out, the 49ers didn't have that dominant play because Kinlaw was out too. I mean, these are space eaters with their sheer length inside, right? So we saw the 49ers struggle a bit against the run without those pieces. But now that they have Armstead back, now that Kinlaw's back, they can gobble up space on the inside. That's going to be key. Set hard edges with the defensive ends. And then at that point, you're still running the wide nine, so there still is some room. That's where your linebackers, who are all pro-type linebackers, it's the best linebacking unit in the NFL. That's when they have to flow to the football. So in base, you're looking at Warner, Greenlaw, and Alshire flowing to the football. And nickel, it's going to be Warner and Greenlaw flowing to the football. You have to make sure that those guys have a chance to fire, though. And those guys have a chance to fire when the defensive line is gobbling up space inside. So that's the short answer. That's how you're going to try to stop K9, Kenneth Walker, who has been a good running back for Seattle here in his first season. Jawan Jennings is on. I love it. What's up, Jawan? Joel Thompson, will Kinlaw be on a pitch count, do you think? I don't think so. I think that he's going to be on a standard rotation number, which is about 25 snaps. I don't think that you plan to have Kinlaw in there much more anyway. So he's been at 22 snaps over the past 2 seasons. Bobby Turner and Anthony Lynn is the best running back coach duo in the league. Think about that. Just one of these guys might be the best running backs coach in the league, right? Either Bobby Turner or Anthony Lynn. 49ers have both of them working with the group. The video I put up today from practice shows both Anthony Lynn and Bobby Turner standing there, arms folded, observing the running backs. And it's also a really talented running back room with Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell just to begin. So you got those two guys, and then you have Anthony Lynn and Bobby Turner coaching them. That's awesome. So, of course, they've had a big impact on the run game. Christian McCaffrey showed up, and ever since then, the 49ers are the number 3 rushing team in football by run DVOA. Best 49ers O-line I've covered for sure. I've been covering the team since 2017, and this is undoubtedly the best line. This is the first line that's top 5 in pass blocking efficiency. They have hit their stride in run blocking. I mean, you don't really have a pronounced weakness anymore on this offensive line because Mike McGlinchey is above average in pass protection for the first time. I love the timeshare that they've run with Burford and Brunskill at right guard to get Burford more acclimated, not throwing him into the fire, without any help his rookie year. Jake Brendel has been a surprise to those outside the building, but not those inside of it. And Aaron Banks, well, the people that wanted him labeled a bust should have realized that development sometimes takes time in the NFL. Aaron Banks at that left guard position. Trent Williams might be the best offensive lineman of all time at left tackle. So this is the best 49ers offensive line that I have covered. I saw Jimmy Garoppolo in the locker room this week. I talked to him. I have a Trey Lance update too. Both Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance currently have scooters and boots because Trey Lance just, walking boots. Trey Lance just underwent a cleanup procedure on the ankle to get one of the devices that they had planted in there out. It was starting to irritate some of his ligaments. Not a huge surgery, but it has put Trey Lance back in the boot and on the scooter so he could put his knee up and doesn't put any weight on the ankle. Jimmy Garoppolo, because of the foot fracture, same deal. But Sunday is going to be 6 weeks since the fracture for Garoppolo. And between 6 and 8 weeks, I've said this from the very start, is when that fracture can be fully healed. And if that's the case, and Jimmy expects that to be the case, I put up a video update, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it next time. But if that's the case, then he could potentially start resuming on land, more football-like activities. And the 49ers still hope that he's going to be back for late in this playoff run. He has been leg pressing. Jimmy has. He's even with the boot, you're still able to do some of these lifts to keep the lower body strong, which I do think is significant. He's obviously been doing some work in the pool too, weightless kind of scenario to keep the cardio up. So the hope is that once the bone is fully healed, and we're entering that 6 to 8 week window coming up on Sunday, once that bone is fully healed, then he can return quickly because he's been keeping up on the conditioning as much as possible with some of these advanced techniques. How's the field doing with all the rain? Do you think it would hold up tomorrow? And Hank says, what's up to Jawan Jennings, a big Tennessee fan. Tennessee fans love Jawan Jennings, by the way. And I see why. I mean, he caught a Hail Mary to beat Georgia, right? That's huge. But, I mean, just a dog. Jawan Jennings is a dog. Everybody says that about him. And the 49ers love that type of player because he gets under an opponent's skin, because he plays physically, because he's willing to make the catches when, the going is tough, when they really need him on third downs. Anyway, Hank asks, how's the field doing with all the rain? Well, it's been under the tarp for most of the time. And then today, the field is looking great. And maybe I should put this up on the screen. There's another reminder that the 49ers and the Seahawks hate each other, by the way. Let me open up something cool for you. Maybe a cool little picture. I mean, you should check out the rest of my videos to get this sooner. But since you're watching right now and you asked me how the field is doing, I will deliver with a nice visual representation of how the field is doing. All right. Are you guys ready for this? Because I'm ready for it. I'm about to put it up on the screen. Here you go. That is how Levi's Stadium in the field is doing. It didn't rain on Thursday. So the 49ers took the opportunity to put that playoff coat of deep red paint onto the field. That is saloon font, 49ers in gold, red paint, NFC logo, old school 49ers helmet. I have a whole video dedicated to this where I walked around the stadium and gave you a look at the field from different angles. So the field does look good. Hope that helps. Hope that helps answer your question. Thank you, those of you complimenting the picture. Jawan Jennings does run hard. Yes, he does. Saloon font looks good. I'll put it back up on the screen. Seems to be popular while I wait for some more questions. Stadium does look beautiful. They brought back the saloon font with the red paint for the playoffs at Levi Stadium for the first time 3 years ago for the playoff run. And so far, with this setup on the field at Levi's, the 49ers are 2-0. They killed the Minnesota Vikings, and then they obliterated the Green Bay Packers. I believe it was like either 27-0 or 30-0 at halftime of that NFC Championship game against Green Bay. And yet some people were afraid of the 49ers potentially playing Green Bay this year. Give me a break. They couldn't even beat the Lions on their home field in a do-or-die game. They don't even have Devontae Adams anymore. Is this 49ers team the best yet? Oh, way too early to ask that. I mean, the 49ers have 5 Super Bowl champions in the past. This team's got to win a Super Bowl before we can put it into that conversation. It might be the best of the Shanahan era, but even now, 2019 has a spot higher up in the order than the 49ers because they 2019 still accomplished more. 2022 has to accomplish what 2019 did first. And they have a chance to, but it hasn't happened yet. All right. I'm going back to myself here so you guys can see me talk. Maybe you'd rather see the red end zones, but you're going to have to deal with me. So that's what we'll do. Does Mosley get re-signed? Has the injury, but he's played himself into a raise and is still young. Yeah, I think you could probably re-sign him at cheaper than you would have been able to, given the way that he was playing, the trajectory that he was on before the ACL tear. So they probably bring him back. And Emmanuel Mosley, I mean, undrafted free agent. Let's talk about Tennessee. Juwan Jennings in Tennessee. E-Man, he went to Tennessee. So volunteers. Those guys are supplying the 49ers with some dogs, with some real talent. I do think they'd re-sign Emmanuel Mosley, though. Aaron Banks is fully healthy. He's back from the knee and ankle issues. He's going to be starting at left guard for the 49ers. Juwan Jennings. Great. Who knows? Makes me laugh, though. If it actually is Juwan Jennings, it'd be funny. What did I tell Juwan Jennings in the locker room today? I told Juwan Jennings something. So if it actually is Juwan Jennings, he will say what I told him. But even if it's not Juwan Jennings, I appreciate it. It's funny. So it's good. You haven't, yeah, Go for Broke wants to know what the number 17 jersey is. It's not Josh Johnson. Some people think it's Josh Johnson. You guys know it was up there before the 49ers picked up Josh Johnson this year. Roland says, real or fake Juwan, go Niners. Hey, sometimes we got to have fun with it, right? It's not that serious. It's a YouTube channel, and we're talking about football. I'm going to put up some of my work on The Athletic from this week because there's been a lot of it that I want you guys to check out. That would be a lot of fun. Yeah, the 49ers are training for a heavy rain scenario. They practiced out on Wednesday in the heavy rain. I think they were really happy about it too, that was the heaviest rain, constant rain they've gotten at practice all season long. And I think that they were like, okay, well, that's in the forecast on Saturday, so we're happy that we have to practice through it. Another guest, Steve DeBerg. And keep in mind that this is a throwback. It's got the block, the 94, but that was also an older throwback back to, I think, I want to say the 55 49ers team. But anyway, this is a 94 49ers red jersey. It's not the one that they're going to be wearing against the Seahawks on Saturday in the rain. Seems like Lenore and Hufanga both had roller coaster seasons in terms of performances. Yeah, yes and no. I think Lenore's gotten better generally as time has gone on. He's been well positioned. Remember, Lenore's season would be looked upon a whole lot differently if that pick six had stood in Seattle in week 15. It was a ticky-tack call against Nick Bosa, right? Hufanga's a Pro Bowler. So it couldn't have been that much of a roller coaster. I mean, Talanoa Hufanga, it's been a studly season for him. Yes, his eyes have gotten caught in the backfield a couple times, and the 49ers want that to get better. But he's been a missile. He's impressed people. First few weeks of the season, his instinctual play, his hard-hitting ability, his quickness, that all led to him being one of the best safeties in football. And he's still considered that as a Pro Bowler this year. So, I've been impressed with Talanoa Hufanga. I really have this season. I think it's important to view that on the aggregate. He's done some really good stuff in his first year starting. This is great right here. The 49ers rank first on offense and defense in average starting field position. Would you say this is the most complimentary team that Kyle Shanahan has coached? Yeah. 49ers are playing complimentary football. That's a great stat. I brought the defense one up the other day to Nick Bosa, and he was really happy about it because it shows the 49ers are playing complimentary ball, right? The 49ers defense sees opposing teams started drives on average at their own 25-yard line. And what that means is, that means the offense and the special teams are doing their job for the 49ers. The offense and special teams are sitting there and setting the table for the defense to go in for the kill. And the defense, it's hard to say the defense is the strongest unit on the team because the offense has also been playing number one level football. I think everybody's working together, and that's why the 49ers have won 10 straight games. 49ers are the best team in the NFC right now, as Jason says. Ambry Thomas, he's hurt right now with the ankle injury. I think he took a step. I don't know if he took a step back or Deommodore Lenoir took a step forward in more robust fashion, but Lenoir passed Ambry Thomas on the depth chart this year. So last year, Ambry Thomas was a playoff hero for the 49ers, week 18, right? I consider that the playoffs when he intercepted Matthew Stafford to lead the 49ers into the tournament. So anyway, look at it. Ambry Thomas is not in the same part of the pecking order as he was last year. Deommodore Lenoir is higher up than he is. Yes, the 1955 throwback uniforms. This one right here, used in 94 and 2019 to 2022. But, they've been used you got your year wrong, 2018. I know people don't want to remember it, but the 49ers brought these back in 2018. Home game, I believe they were wearing whites at home against the Rams, and they just got completely destroyed by the Rams. That was the year the Rams went to the Super Bowl, won the NFC Championship on the no call against the Saints. What are the Niners' chances if Brock Purdy goes down? Against Seattle, I think they're still good because I think the 49ers can beat Seattle on defense with Josh Johnson. But as this goes further and further, that's why you want Jimmy Garoppolo back as at least insurance. That's why the Garoppolo recovery is something that we're closely watching. Yeah, and Ambry has dealt with injuries this year. I think Deommodore Lenoir got physically stronger by a greater degree than Ambry Thomas did over the offseason program, something that I just kind of noticed with the eye test. So we'll see. Yeah, there are great people in here. That's good. I think we've made these subscriber only fairly recently to kind of filter some stuff out. And I've liked that because we have a lot of subscribers. We're coming up on 30,000. So hit that sub button right now. If you're not commenting and you're not subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button and we'll be able to celebrate 30K maybe before the 49ers square off with the Seahawks on Saturday. Will Debo break out in this game? Maybe. It just depends on the way that the defense is playing the 49ers. Brock Purdy's job is to play point guard. And you play point guard by passing to the open man. So we'll see who the open man is. The 49ers have plenty of weapons. 30K? Yep, we're coming up on it. How much are we at, Mike? Let's ask Mike. Mike will know how many subs we have. He'll have the exact number for us. Almost at 30K. And you are one of the first, Jason. Thank you. Yeah, I feel that there is a lot of Seahawks support in the Pacific Northwest, kind of Canada. I guess that would be the southwest of Canada, right? Vancouver's right there. I love Vancouver. Vancouver's a cool city. In fact, if I had to pick between Seattle and Vancouver, I think I prefer Vancouver over Seattle. Really cool spot. Not far apart from each other. I've even taken like a bus, I think, in between the two before. Mike just messaged me. 29,425. So yeah, we're about 500 away, between 500 and 600 away from 30,000. Yeah, Vancouver's cool. How long have I been covering the 49ers? I came aboard in 2017, the same year that Shanahan and Lynch did. So it's been cool to kind of chart the progression of this team. Yeah, we're 575 away. I think you're better at math than I am. I think we could get those 575 before kickoff. And you know what? I don't think. What did I say? We're not 575. Yeah, we are. 29,425. You're right. I thought it was 445. Good job. Good job. If you had a calculator, still a good job. Nick Bosa is the combination of Justin Smith and Alden Smith. Yeah, I mean, he's stockier than Alden. So he plays the run a little bit better. I mean, you could line up Nick on the inside and he would excel, I would think. I think that he's a bit leaner than he has been in the past. I remember he came in this year and I was like, oh boy, he's lost some weight, but he's so technically sound. He'd be able to scrap on the interior. It's actually not a bad thought. I mean, but Justin Smith was just so strong. Cowboy. So strong. What are the chances Jackrabbit Jenkins plays? I think it would have taken injury for Jackrabbit Jenkins to play, but he will contribute some on special teams. Appreciate it, Thomas. Thomas said thank you. Really appreciate that. The deal with Danny Gray. Oops, I just skipped over here. The comments are coming in too fast. The deal with Danny Gray is he's a rookie. 49ers have started giving him a few more looks, but it's hard to break into a rotation that has so many elite players. Christian McCaffrey says it's like he's at the Pro Bowl whenever he's at the locker room for the 49ers because they have so many star players. So a rookie like Danny Gray is going to have some tough sledding to get some touches, although he did get that end around sweep. Was it the Raiders? Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. I think it was in Vegas. Leroy Phillips wants Brock Purdy to win Rookie of the Year. You could argue that there hasn't been a rookie more important than Brock Purdy to his team this year, even though Purdy's only played those 6 games. I don't think it's a bad argument. What linemen other than Trent are important for the win? All of them, especially because you're going to have Seattle coming in with Uchenna Nwosu and Darrell Carter. Those are, I mean, the edge positions for the 49ers, blocking those is going to be of utmost importance because that's where Seattle can torpedo this game. I think you've seen significant pressure generated by Seattle in recent weeks coming off the edge between those two guys. You know, why don't Darrell Taylor? Did I say Darrell Carter? Yeah, Darrell Taylor. What? Here, I'm going to take that down right here, and I'm going to go to my 49ers to beat the Seahawks keys. Key 1, right here. This was key 1. Block Uchenna Nwosu and Darrell Taylor. You absolutely have to prioritize this, and that means McGlinchey's going to have to do his job at right tackle. That means that Trent Williams is going to have to do his job at left tackle. Purdy is going to have to do his job identifying at the quarterback position to make sure that, you know, all blitzes are accounted for, that edge rushers are accounted for. Pocket presence is going to be important. Interior pressure pickup is going to be really important. But these two guys, Uchenna Nwosu and Darrell Taylor, have been terrorizing quarterbacks, especially Taylor as of late, has several sacks over the past few weeks. Now, key 2 is going to help you neutralize those Seattle edge rushers, because if you can run right at Seattle, you're going to take yourself out of pass obvious situations. And this might be necessary if it's raining hard on Saturday. Seattle doesn't have their top linebacker in Jordan Brooks. The 49ers have their top running backs in Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell. So this should be a pronounced advantage for the 49ers. And then if you do exercise that advantage, Brock Purdy has to be smart. When you do pass, you do run off play action, you do try to loosen up the defense, make sure that Quandre Diggs doesn't trap you into an interception. And also watch out for Tariq Woolen, right? Good, I wanted to say freshman cornerback, good rookie cornerback who's probably going to see a lot of time on Brandon Ayuk in this game. And Ayuk is the 49ers' main man beater, right? So if there's any man coverage from Tariq Woolen, it's going to be up to Ayuk to create some separation. But the glory of the 49ers offense is that even if Ayuk's not getting open, you've got Deebo Samuel, you've got Christian McCaffrey, you have George Kittle, who typically has big games against the Seahawks. I mean, it's a loaded 49ers team, and they should be in position to move the ball against Seattle, just like they did in week 2 and in week 15. Now, other side of the ball, key 4, Nick Bosa needs to continue to dominate a pair of rookie left tackles for the Seattle Seahawks. That's Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas, because that sets the table. The 49ers have racked up 45 pressures against Seattle over the 2 games in the regular season. Seattle's only gotten 11 pressures against the 49ers. So when we talk about blocking Nwosu and Darrell Taylor, 49ers have done a good job of that so far. And key 5, make sure that Ward squared stays ahead of the Metcalf Lockett chess match. All right. So Seattle's got weapons on offense, and it's DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett that headline things. Kenneth Walker at the running back position. We already talked about the 49ers stuff in the run game. I think they're going to do that again. They've been so good with Eric Armstead back. But any game that has Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf involved could be a ticking time bomb if you don't cover them correctly. Correct coverage technique for me for the 49ers will be using Charvarius Ward, one of Ward squared, right? Charvarius and Jimmy, to trail DK Metcalf, frustrate DK Metcalf, so that way you can use a variety of coverage combinations in Tyler Lockett, who's one of the best in the game. Jimmy Ward did a really good job against Tyler Lockett in his chances in week 15. So you mix and match those coverages, and you rely on your pass rush, Nick Bosa dominating up front and other guys dominating up front to shield the coverage, right? Rush and coverage work together to slow down or shut down Seattle's offense, which the 49ers have already done successfully twice this season. And I have a 6th key for this game. Special teams needs to be played to at least a draw, because the Seahawks are a top 5 special teams unit. If there's any kind of area that they're going to make up ground, it's going to be in that special teams department in this game. So the 49ers have to be on their P's and Q's in that regard. Anyway, those were my keys. I digressed for a bit because you guys were asking me about particular matchups. So hopefully that covers a lot of the questions. Maybe sparks a few more. If you're just now joining, sub to the channel, sub to The Athletic. I'm going to showcase some of the articles from this week before I sign off. Probably run for about an hour in this show. We're at 51 minutes right now. We talked about this at the start of the show. Geno has never been in the playoffs. You're right. I think people are talking about Purdy, though, because instead of being 32 years old, he's 23. So experience or lack of it is still a concern for Brock Purdy, but clean slate for him. He has a chance to write his own narrative. Did Sherman predict the 49ers are going to beat down Seahawks? I think the 49ers are going to beat them. I'll share my score prediction tomorrow. It's in my preview article if you want to check it out. But they're a lot better. So, that's what I expect to happen. But we will see exactly what does happen in this game. No, I don't get devastated at all. I don't care when the 49ers lose. I just cover the team. I don't root for or against them. My family is the Lombardi side is actually, I think, from southern Switzerland, Ticino, the Italian portion of Switzerland. But I'm sure that, I have some ancestors that are from that northern state in Italy of Lombardy. Cool stuff, though. I spell my name, obviously, with an I, not with a Y. The Y is the English spelling. Nick Bosa won Pro Football Talks Defensive Player of the Year. Obviously well-deserved. I didn't see that. Inclement weather tends to impact special teams the most. Yeah, that's a good point. Special teams is going to be big. I mean, Brian Schneider built up Seattle special teams, and now he's built up the 49ers special teams as their coordinator. But Pete Carroll's unit on the other side is still good. So special teams might be a big determining factor in this game. Richard Sherman has been on both sides of this rivalry. That is right. All right, guys, I'm going to show you some cool stuff here. Hold tight. I'm going to put this up on the screen. There's just so much going on here. All right, here we go. Boom. I now will hide these comments. Maybe hide this banner. And check out the work from this week. I want everybody to subscribe to The Athletic if you do have a chance. This is today's article, came out in the morning. 49ers confident Brock Purdy can hold steady in his playoff debut. And then obviously we had the big one. Post-game locker room summits at Trent Williams' locker between Williams and Nick Bosa. This is the one that you definitely want to check out. The meetings after every game at Trent Williams' locker. I had a chance to really observe this and talk to both Trent and Nick about it, and then obviously Christian McCaffrey as well. And if you want a look into the DNA of the 49ers locker room and why this team, might be the Super Bowl favorite in a lot of people's minds, at least in the 49ers minds, this is it right here. The collaboration between two of the best. So go ahead and check that out. I just put in the chat section, I put the link there. Anyway, it's been a fun show. I'm hungry now. It's time for me to go. I don't want to eat when it's too late. Maybe I put a burrito on a video or something a little bit later tonight. I just love grinding. I love bringing you guys all the 49ers information from cool spots all around the world right now in San Francisco. So buckle up, because more of that is on its way. And I think there's also more rain on the way too. So we have to be wary of that. Anyway, sub to The Athletic, sub to the channel, like the video, do everything that you need to. I'm at Twitter at Lombardi himself. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. I appreciate all your support. Everybody have a great rest of your Thursday night. And there's maybe even some more coming this way on the YouTube channel. So we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.